Hello everyone watching from home. My name is Tony Bitzer and thank you so much for joining us today on OC Spotlight. A special guest joins us today. This is Katrina Porras and she is a laboratory technician for various types of cancers. Thank you for joining us today, Katrina.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so just to start off, I wanted to know what made you want to pursue the current field that you're in today?
When I was a senior in high school, my niece was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 2. Because of this, I wanted to help people, regardless of whether it was their mental health or medical. So with that, I went into psychology for my college degree.
Oh wow, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with me today. Mm-hmm. What was it like pursuing a degree in psychology?
I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I mainly focused on mental health and research. A lot of it was schizophrenia and personality disorders for the first half, and for the second half, I did many research projects focusing on cancer and how it affects people emotionally and mentally, and how to help them get through that. Wow,
that's great. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm sure that required a lot of you to get that degree and pursue that. And I know that this profession is very competitive and it's very difficult to get into a lab job specifically. How did you get into your foot in the door for that kind of position?
With anything medical, it's very difficult to get your foot in the door. So it took me a while, and I worked 4 part-time jobs until I was able to find something like this. One of them being a coffee shop, and one of my coworkers had a mom that was a recruiter for a cancer diagnostic center. And after speaking to her, she was able to get me in the door with my degree.
Oh, wow. So with how competitive it is, sounds like you got a real lucky break there with that. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that happened to you, though. And so obviously after that happened, after the recruiter helped you out, you got a lab job in Arizona. Mm-hmm. I just want to know, what were your specific obligations while working this lab job in Arizona?
As a laboratory technician, there are many obligations that we are given, many responsibilities that we need to take care of. The main responsibilities that we had were accessioning, distribution, and analysis. Accessioning being just entering patients' information into our database, getting the client to start moving throughout our lab. And then that leads us into distribution, which they have many life cycles throughout the lab. And then once that is over, we go into analysis and we give the patients to the doctors.
Okay, that's a lot of stuff there. I'm really glad that you like doing it. Unfortunately, we do have to go to a commercial break, so we'll stop there. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back, everyone, to OC Spotlight. We are here with Katrina Porras, who is a clinical lab technician in the field of cancer. We were just talking about your duties with your lab job in Arizona. And now I guess I want to ask, so I know that Arizona is a very different place from California, and it's probably the same way with the labs you worked in. So what was the big reason, that made you want to change and move out to California?
It mainly came down to family. My brother was suffering from many different mental health issues and PTSD, as he is in the military. So I needed to move out here to help him cope with his lifestyles.
Oh, thank you for telling me about that. I'm sure that was not easy to deal with, and I'm glad that you made that change for your family. And I guess I want to know now. So you obviously work in a lab out here as well. Um, what was the difference between working in a lab in Arizona versus a lab in California?
From state to state, they have very different regulations. The biggest difference was that in my lab in Arizona, they worked mainly with paraffin wax blocks and slides. We were expanding into a blood lab. However, I left before we ever had to do any work with that. And then my lab in California, we only focus on blood and saliva samples. And we had also signed a contract with OC Health to do a lot of their COVID testing for various businesses and schools around the area.
Oh, wow. Thank you for doing that, first of all. There was a plethora of people that needed COVID tests, especially at the height of the pandemic. So that's very interesting. And I guess my final question is, where do you see yourself in the future in terms of this profession? Do you want to stay, go on the same path, or do you want to migrate to something else?
In the medical field, there's a lot of opportunities that come up, and the main one that I'm focusing on right now is to be a clinical laboratory scientist. My current job actually pays for the schooling to go through that, so that is an option for me. However, I'm also interested in becoming a project management for the same company to try to expand and develop our business.
Okay. Wow, there's so many available options to you. Thank you so much for sharing all of your stories today. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. My name is Tony Bitzer. This is Katrina Porras, and this has been OC Spotlight. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's OC Spotlight. I'll be your host, Griffin Johnson. Today we have a very special guest for you, my mother, Kristen Johnson, who's a soaps and candles artist. In the past few years, she started a business called Kindred Soaps, creating and selling soaps of very unique designs. She pours her heart and soul into each product she makes. I would know because her house smells absolutely amazing. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
So let's get into it. How did you start making soaps?
After my mother passed, I had a lot of artistic desires to get out in terms of creating something that was positive after such a negative experience with her passing and so forth. And so I wanted to make something that smelled good, that felt good, that made me happy, that would make other people happy, and that's how we started.
I'm sorry to hear about your loss, but I'm glad to hear that you were able to turn that grief into joy that you could share with other people.
Absolutely.
So how long have you been in the business?
Since October of 2019.
Okay, so about 3 years. And would you mind showing me some of your products?
Sure. So these are a few of the candles that I've made. This is a set, obviously, of clouds, my Buddha, and this is one of the bath bombs that I make. This is the summer crab. But for each season, I come out with a different line of bath bombs and shower bombs.
So have you been doing bath bombs much recently?
A lot of bath bombs.
Okay. There's a lot of small details in these. Is that part of what differentiates Kindred Soaps from your average soap maker?
Well, that and also the ingredients that I use. I really work very hard on making sure that the ingredients are natural, that there's nothing that will cause skin irritation, that the fragrances are pure, and that they're not overwhelming and will cause someone with sensitive skin or sensitive nose to be overwhelmed. But I also want them to the smell is so intoxicating that I want to make sure that the scents that I use are really very lovely.
Well, you can tell you really care about the customer and how the product feels on them.
Yeah.
I noticed on the labels that you have goat's milk soap as your primary thing. Why do you use goat's milk in your soap?
Because goat's milk is one of the fattiest milks of all of the animals, and so therefore it's very moisturizing when it's used in products that are in contact with your skin. Also, goat's milk contains a lot of lactic acid, which is very important for just skin rejuvenation anyway, because it takes off the dead skin cells and lets the new ones come through. So, and I've just had wonderful, wonderful success with using goat's milk. It's just a lovely product to add.
Oh, it makes sense why you use it. It adds a little unique flair. What has been some of the biggest obstacles of starting your own business?
That I am doing it all from soup to nuts by myself. So I tend to get these huge rushes of creative, juices, and then I start making, and then all of a sudden I realize, oh my gosh, I've got to go back and make sure that I get the photographs, I've got a product, I've got to label everything, I've got to make sure that, it all is a cohesive feel to everything. So it's just learning how to start the project, go through each step at a time,
Okay, makes
finish
sense.
it, and then wrap it up.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we'll have to wrap up for commercial, but we will be back very soon. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone. Again, we are here joined with my mom, Kristen Johnson, the creator of Kindred Soaps. So tell me, what held you back from starting a creative business like this sooner?
I think the fear, how do you start, where do you go, where do I pull things from? I mean, I really had to learn all of it just on my own, and I think, it was just daunting, but
Yeah,
got
sounds
through
like
it.
a daunting task. Is there family or someone who helped you get through it or inspired you through this process?
My mom, honestly, she is always been in the forefront of my mind in making this company work.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. I heard that she has some inspiration into the name.
Absolutely, that's where kindred comes from, because we were kindred spirits, and so now we are together in Kindred Soaps.
I'm glad to hear you can kind of keep her legacy going.
Absolutely.
When do you feel most proud of your work?
I would say when I am at a show or festival, when I'm at a festival and people come up to me and they talk to me and they make remarks or they ask me questions, and I can see that they're, excited about my products, and I'll demonstrate some things, or they're just excited about the design and the scents particularly. So that to me is like the best.
So you'd say that the relationships are kind of your measurement of success, essentially.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other measurements of success?
I have my own measurement of success when I just make something and I just really, really love it, and when I put it out there, it's well received. So
Now, if someone wanted to get one of your products, where would they go?
I have a website, kindredsoaps.com. I have an Instagram account, Kindred Soaps at Instagram, and then I am also at several festivals and farmers markets.
That's good to hear. Would you mind telling us about that festival in Irvine that's coming up?
I have the Holiday Fair Festival in Irvine on November 5th. I have the Patchwork Show in Tustin on November 6th. And then I'm doing a harvest festival in Ladera Ranch on October 22nd. I also do a Rancho Mission Viejo farmers market on the first Saturday of every month.
All right, it's good to hear. So thank you for being here. We're glad to have had you, and we will see you next time on OC Spotlight.